Hello and welcome to Community Connection. I'm Iowa City Mayor Bruce Teague. Over the last year, the call for a change in the way policing happens in our country has been loud and clear, including here in Iowa City. A preliminary plan to restructure the Iowa City Police Department is under consideration with an emphasis on community policing. Joining me to discuss these plans is Police Chief Dustin Liston. So happy for you to be here with me today.
Thanks, Mayor. It's good to be here with you.
Well, first off, I want to just say thank you for being a part of our city and coming as our chief of police. Welcome. And wanted to also give those that are watching just a sense of your background. Can you tell us a little bit about why did you choose Iowa City? And also, I know it's the greatest city in the world, but if you can tell us also about your time in law enforcement, your career as well.
Sure. Well, I was born and raised in Iowa. I grew up in Eldora, which is in central Iowa, and I went to school here at the University of Iowa. I was here from 93 to 97. And while I was here, I had the opportunity to do an internship with the Iowa City Police Department. And that was probably my first formal experience with law enforcement. And I was thoroughly impressed with the department. I fell in love with the city when I was here. I'm a huge Iowa Hawkeye fan and have been for my entire life. So it was something that I'd always kept an eye on. My brother took me to El Paso. He worked for the El Paso Police Department in El Paso, Texas, which is the far western tip of Texas on the border of Mexico. He got hired there. And then when I was finishing up school at that time, the landscape was different for law enforcement, especially in Iowa. It was very competitive to get a job in Iowa. So he suggested I come to El Paso, larger agency, about 1,200 officers, better opportunity to get on. So my senior year of college at Iowa, I applied in El Paso and got hired, moved down there and worked in El Paso for 22 years. So over that amount of time, I worked my way up through patrol. I was a traffic officer assigned on a motorcycle. I worked at our academy for many years. The El Paso Police Department has its own academy. Worked on that many years, and then promoted to sergeant and then lieutenant. And my last stop in El Paso was running the Fusion Center, which is a joint intelligence operation. There are 80 fusion centers in the United States. Iowa has one. It's in Des Moines. Texas has 8. So I ran one of the fusion centers in Texas. And then how did I end up back in Iowa City? Well, I always kept an eye on the city, following Iowa sports. And I also followed the Iowa Police Department. So what I did was applied when I saw Chief Matherly had left. And I honestly thought it was a pipe dream. Iowa City is probably the one city that I could have convinced my wife, who was born and raised in El Paso, to move to. And lo and behold, I got the job and she agreed to move right in the teeth of the winter. So I really had some explaining to do when we got here. But it's been a fantastic time so far. I love the city. I love the downtown area, the old Capitol. I get giddy every time I drive by Kinnick Stadium. So couldn't be happier to be back serving the community that I really care about.
Great. Well, again, welcome to our community. Very happy to have you here. And I heard you talk about you have a history here. You were born in Eldora, so Iowa isn't foreign to you. And of course, you were here at the University of Iowa and even at our police department. So that does give you a little bit of vantage point of who we are as Iowa Cityans. So that is a very positive thing. Wanted to also talk about this. You talked about 1,200 officers. I'm assuming that was when you first went to El Paso. But many people in our community may not know the size of our police department. Can you tell people about the size of our police department and some of the roles and different things that our police department do? Because some people may not know.
Absolutely. The Iowa City Police Department has authorized 84 sworn officers. So that means officers that wear a badge. The overall staffing is 109, and that includes civilian staff. That includes our community service officers who are not sworn staff. That includes our administrative staff. It also includes our animal services. So the total combined staff members is 109. Throughout the department, we have several different units. We are, for Iowa, we're a decent sized agency. We obviously have patrol. Those are the men and women you see out on the streets responding to calls. And then we have a investigative section of detectives who investigate and follow up on crimes after they've happened. Then we also have many officers who wear several hats. We have crime scene technicians. Those are officers who show up to calls afterwards to gather evidence, dust for fingerprints, things of that nature. We have a bomb team, Johnson County bomb team, Metro team, and we have a representative on that. We're authorized 2 canine officers. We have, we have a member on the Johnson County Drug Task Force. We have neighborhood liaison officers, downtown liaison officers. So there's a lot of opportunity on the Iowa City Police Department. We also have 17 supervisors, and those vary from the rank of sergeant, lieutenant, 2 captains, and then myself as chief. So although it's a agency of 84 officers, our capabilities are quite strong, and we provide opportunity for officers to wear a lot of different hats and do a lot of different jobs.
Well, our department is certainly one that has been busy over the entire course of the operations of the city police department. But over the past year, there has certainly been more of a pause to just say, hey, what's happening here within our police department? And it actually has been happening across the world, across our nation. So I wanted to just get your impression after you and the rest of the world watched the officer that was convicted of the murder of George Floyd. This officer was in Minneapolis. And I want to get from your law enforcement perspective, what did you think about the outcome of that trial?
Well, obviously, everyone in the country was on pins and needles waiting for the outcome of that trial because it was going to have an impact on the entire country. So when you watch an event like that, especially as a law enforcement officer, you recognize the damage that does, not only to the people involved, the tragic life of a person, but the damage it does to the trust in law enforcement in the criminal justice system. And without trust and legitimacy, the men and women of the police department, their job becomes that much harder. And it creates a safety issue for the community. If the community cannot trust the police department to do their job, then they're not going to call. They risk being victimized to other crimes. So what we were hopeful for, what I was hopeful for, that the criminal justice system would work and we could get a conviction on that case. And that is what happened. And I hope that provides a small amount of confidence in the system. I know we have a lot of work to do. I think it's a step in the right direction. So that was my take on it. I was watching it just hoping that the criminal justice system would rise to the occasion and do the right thing. As you can imagine, as police officers, we've all been involved in trials, and you never know which way it's going to go. I wasn't a member of the jury, and I admit I didn't watch every single second of the evidence, but it sure seemed obvious from where we all sat what the outcome should be. So I think there was a sense of relief that justice was served, and hopefully that can provide a stepping point to move forward.
So like I said, the world was watching, and I appreciate your perspective from a police angle. Of course, my perspective is certainly it is exactly what you mentioned. The outcome is what should have happened, is what I expected. is what I couldn't imagine any sensible person listening as a jury could do any other outcome. So I'm very happy for that outcome, even though there are a lot of lives that are still affected by that. That's something that you can't erase out of your mind when you saw that video. Now, when it comes down to our own police department and our council, the city council resolution to restructuring the Iowa City Police Department, can you tell us a little bit about the steps that have been taken so far?
Sure. Well, as you know, Mayor, you guys have been working hard on this along with the city manager's office to come up with the preliminary plan to restructure the Iowa City Police Department. And there were 36 steps on that we're currently working through. And it's going to be a difficult process, and it's going to be a long-term process. And that's what I want to focus on. And I know that's the city managers and my focus is that this isn't the end all. This isn't the final product. This is the first step on an ongoing process and something that law enforcement had been doing prior to this. But obviously the events of last summer created a focus and I think assisted us in guiding us the direction we should be going. So that preliminary plan is a good start. Many of those things we've already accomplished. Some of the things we had been working on prior to the plan. But I think the preliminary plan is a good leaping off point for where we can go to continue to be the department that the Iowa City community can be proud of and continue to make improvements and make adjustments where needed. So we're providing police services the way the community wants them.
Now, the plan is no minor undertaking. It's going to be a major undertaking. Of course, as you mentioned, there are some things that we have been able to accomplish throughout the time that City Council has been looking at this. One of the biggest focus that we have is that less reliance on armed officers when it really does call for more of a nonviolent type situation, someone that's in a mental health crisis and that type of stuff. So I wanted to just get your perspective on what are some of the things that are being considered and some of the things that's been accomplished.
Sure, and that's a great topic. It has been something that we as law enforcement officers have been dealing with for many years. I've mentioned this before. There are scenarios where officers get called to scenes where even we are asking, I wonder why we were called to this. And unfortunately, it's not that simple because there could be communication barriers. There could be an unwillingness to be candid with dispatch or a call taker when someone calls in. So what we often find is the call type that an officer gets sent to may not be an accurate representation of what is exactly happening. So that creates a challenge in deciding which agencies would be best suited to deal with something. So, but what we have done and what we're currently working on are the outreach positions. The first one has already been staffed, and that's the shelter house outreach position to deal with those people who are experiencing a homeless crisis. And it helps. We as police officers don't always have the resources to deal with that, but someone who works for Shelter House certainly knows the resources that can be useful. And so they would be best equipped to handle these. And that position was just filled within the last month by Shelter House, and we're currently working with them to better address situations that they can handle. The next one is the big one, and that's the mental health law enforcement liaison. And that's what you just mentioned. When you have someone who is in having a mental health crisis, sometimes law enforcement is not the best equipped to handle that. Unfortunately, we have to ensure that the safety of everyone, the safety of our responders, the safety of the public. So what we're going with right now is the co-responder model, and we'll evaluate that once we have some time doing it. They're currently filling that position as we speak. That is the model that they used at my former agency, would be a co-responder model. And the mental health liaison or the mental health professional would take the lead on the call. The law enforcement officer was there merely to make sure the scene was safe. and allow the mental health professional to do what they do best. So that's the position that I'm most excited for. I think that has the potential to really do some good. And we've obviously always had mental health outreach. We've had the mobile crisis, but sometimes there are things that they just cannot respond to without law enforcement present, just to make sure the scene is safe. But we will certainly continue to work with our dispatch to make sure that they get the training to make sure we're sending the appropriate agencies to the calls to maybe prevent law enforcement from showing up at calls where they're obviously not needed.
There's been a lot of conversation around, the community policing, as you just mentioned, especially when it comes to mental health and the 911 response, right? How can that be integrated? And council just had a work session just totally focused in on police restructuring. And so as we're talking about the restructuring process as a whole, what stage is the department at, and what will it look like moving forward?
Well, as you mentioned, we had the work session last week, and that was very productive. I think we're well on the way to implementing this plan. There were a couple of items that needed some guidance from City Council, and I'm sure we'll probably have another work session or two going forward. But a good portion of the plan we are in the process of implementing or has already been implemented. One of the things I'm also very excited about is the ABLE training, and that's the active bystander training. We sent a couple of our officers to the Train the Trainer program, and that's hosted by Georgetown University. And what that does is it coincides with our duty to intervene. If an officer sees another officer doing something that is illegal or immoral, they have a duty to intervene, and it's written into the policy. So we have a memorandum of understanding with all the agencies in Johnson County. So that's very exciting. The ABLE training is just an extension of that, where all of our officers are now, we went through it last week, we implemented it department-wide. All of our officers have received the initial 8 hours of training, which just gives them strategies to intervene mostly before something becomes an issue, because obviously we would like to identify problems before they become a dangerous situation. So we're really excited about that. And I think that's a step in the right direction. And again, as I mentioned during the work session, it's just another example of the Iowa City community taking the lead on something.
Now, the public input is very important and vital. So how can the public provide feedback on the process?
That's a great question. And I know that's been a focus of council, and it's a valid one. And that's always been my focus as well. We need more people to provide their input. I think law enforcement has done themselves a disservice by not allowing everyone to participate in the process. So the best way to do that would be go to the city website, which is icgov.org, and you can navigate your way to the police plan. You can see it translated into 3 different languages. And then you can also send an email to policeplan@iowa-city.org. You can send that email if you have any suggestions. You can comment on that. There's also a survey on the website at icgov.org, which allows you to give your input. But that's really what we're looking for, because we just don't want it to be one person's idea or one group of people's idea. We want it to be the entire community's input, and that's the only way we get legitimacy and complete buy-in from the entire community.
Well, I know that the voices of our community are very important, and we want people to certainly tap in and share some of those. And for those populations, many within the BIPOC community, the Black community, I know that we had some Speak Up, Speak Out events in the past, right? When George Floyd was murdered, we also had some listening sessions and posts before we even had the creation of the preliminary plan. And now, council has been in discussion about how can we, allow opportunity for the public to come and share their thoughts. So there may be more ways for the public to engage. So I would say stay tuned as we continue to find out some or all of the opportunities that people will have. But as we end our time here today, I wanted to just allow you any more space to share any final thoughts with us.
I appreciate the opportunity, Mayor, for this chance to speak to the community. And we are in the middle of a recruiting process for the Iowa City Police Department right now. And I think it is a perfect opportunity for those who want to be part of the solution. As you know, we're going through the restructure process, and this is a chance for someone to come in on the ground floor of the Iowa City Police Department as we restructure and move forward in the future. So we have several openings. It's a fantastic department, as I mentioned in the opening. Several opportunities for personal and professional growth, and a fantastic opportunity to serve the community that we all care so much about. So I would encourage people to put in their application. Again, like I said, it's a great opportunity to be part of the solution and part of improving the Iowa City Police Department and the Iowa City community.
Well, it is a great opportunity right now for people to put in the application should they want to be a part of the solution. So thank you for sharing that opportunity with us. Thank you again for coming to our community and leading our police department. I really appreciate it. I know that it's no small task, especially given the the times we're living in right now. Thank you again, and I wish you an awesome and amazing rest of the day.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Again, you can review the proposed changes to the Iowa City Police Department by visiting icgov.org/preliminary plan. Feedback can be emailed to policeplan@iowa-city.org. That's all for today, but we'll be back again soon with another episode of Community Connection. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you then.